Hello. Thanks for coming today. This is a nice, pleasant, warm day, and I think fitting for what we're about. My name is Bob Carpenter, and Helen has asked me to, preside over. You cannot hear? And where is Doug? Maybe he can help us? Okay. There we go. So we'll try a little more volume. Apparently, you older people don't hear very well. So, I've had no responsibility for doing all the organization that this required. Helen asked me to do this. Just, I guess she was looking for a pretty face, and. So welcome to the memorial for our friend Bert Cornick. Bert passed last July, and he was just almost 89, más o menos 89. So he lived a long, good life. On your chair, you should have found a handout. The handout was printed for a similar event in Portland, and so the order of activities is going to be different today, but otherwise everything is the same. Some nice photos of Bert, the poem that's going to be read today, and then there's a little tear sheet with a URL on it, also known as a web address, and that's where you can find a number of things. You can find Bert's obituary there. You can also see the slideshow there again that you'll see today. And there's also a eulogy on that site from Bert's son, Kurt, that you'll want to listen to. It's very, very good. And there'll be photos taken today, and those photos will be on that website as well. So if you have an inclination to want something from today, it's probably on that website. So, as you realize, there's a lot of food and beverages, and the plan is for you to get up as the Spirit moves you and have some more food and so on. Hold off on the mezcal. We have plans for that. I need to do some thank yous because this didn't happen all by itself. The first people I'd like to thank are referred to as the Bayo Buddies. These are friends of Helen's who live in the complex that Helen lives in. Janie Craven for arranging sandwiches and making Bert's favorite brownies. I'm getting a little signal. Is that for me?
That's Jason.
Okay. Oh, I can't see that far back. It was just something moving. Melinda Simon, who made Buckeye candies with the two major food groups, chocolate and peanut butter. Nancy McNamara made the wedding cookies. We'd like to thank Brescia Cruz. She's the mezcal lady. She also brought some flowers and some chips, but love Brescia for the mezcal. Alejandro and Javier Martinez, thank you for helping deliver all the agua frescas and doing the odds and ends. We appreciate that. And then we have a bunch of people who have shuffled chairs around on the deck and done things like that. Ann Mitchell, Jan Rooney, Janie Cravens, Denny and Bob Cooperwriter, and Susan Connor. The person who's going to take all of your photos is Roger Watts, and there's Roger in the corner. And then last but not least, we want to thank Doug Long. These kinds of presentations would not be possible without Doug Long and the skills that he possesses. Many of us know how these events went before Doug arrived on the scene. So we appreciate all of Doug's help. So the order of things today is we're going to have a poem by, and Joanne Lang is going to read a poem. That poem is in your program. We'll have a slideshow that Helen put together. And then we're going to open it up and have some thoughts about Bert from his friends. I will designate a couple people to start talking to break the ice, but then feel free to raise your hand. Somebody will come over with a microphone, and you can tell us a story or comments or your views about Bert, whatever you would like to say. And then following that, we will have a toast to Bert with Brisha's Mezcal. So, Joanne, would you like to start off and read us a poem? And we need that.
Immortality. Do not stand by my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am the thousand winds that blow. I am the diamond glints in snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. As you awake with morning's hush, I am the swift, upflinging rush of quiet birds in circling flight. I am the day transcending night. Do not stand by my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die.
Thank you, Joanne. We have a slideshow, and I've watched the slideshow. It's good. It's fast. and there's a lot to see and a lot to read, and I think I can tell you now, you're not going to be able to see all and read all, but the slideshow will be on the website that is at the URL that's been in your that has been placed in your program, so you'll be able to take a look at that later. And I don't know whether you should read the words or just watch the pictures. I don't know. But enjoy the slideshow. It's quite good. One of the things I learned about Bert by watching the video is that I have spent a huge amount of money buying an e-bike, and he just put a couple lawnmower batteries on a bicycle. And he was very proud of that, and spent a fair amount of time explaining to me how he did that too. I'd like to invite a few people up now and talk about Bert, reminisce a bit about Bert, story, comments, whatever you like. I'll ask 3 people to come up, and then after that, hopefully the ice has been broken and you're kind of warmed up and ready to say a few words about Bert as well. So let's ask Ann Mitchell to come up and start things off.
That's hard to follow. That was incredible, Helen, and you've put together an incredible tribute to Bert. I'm glad you got a chance to see that bike, because we saw it in action, and I'm going to mention it here in just a minute. Seeing it in action was something else again. Bert.
And
Oh, yeah. short name, Bert, for a long life. Somebody said the tragedy of life is not that it ends so soon, but that we wait so long to begin it. And Bert didn't wait. He hit the ground running. And as we saw from all of the incredible trips that you took together, all of the things he did in his life, he really lived a full life. We met Bert 12 years ago here in Oaxaca, but the stories he told from his younger life could have filled all those 12 years with time to spare. Our months with Helen and Bert were mainly here in Oaxaca, winters that we spent together eating, walking, traveling, going to fiestas, lectures, musical events, and even just sitting and visiting. It was just all wonderful. Helen was really the organizer of all of that, but Bert was always up for an adventure, so whatever she planned, we did, and he did it with gusto. 2 of our trips that we took together were to magic villages, and they really were magic indeed. It was so much fun just to be there with you. No matter where we went, Bert made friends. He made friends with everybody. The gift of gab doesn't begin to even describe Bert. The ease with which he could meet folks. Lack of good Spanish never stopped him. Actually, it was lack of any Spanish at all. But he kept on with gestures and saying the wrong words, and Helen would sort of gently correct him a little bit, and the rest of us thought it sounded pretty darn good too. But anyway, he made friends everywhere, and he got his message across without really knowing any Spanish. He could fix and do anything. If you ask him the time, he told you how to make a watch in real time. But he really did do a lot. And just hearing some of the stories that he shared over the years, what you saw in the slideshow was just a snippet of the many activities that he did. Several years ago, we went on a camping trip together with Helen and Bert. Bob and I had our little pup tent down on the ground, freezing to death. And Helen and Bert showed up in an RV. They had acquired it a few years earlier, but Bert had completely rehabbed it, taken it apart, put it back together again. It was amazing. So they had this mobile mansion that was unreal from what I think it probably was years before that. But he knew how to do it all. We went hiking in the Oregon woods together several times with him, and it was always an educational moment. Helen could identify birds from just the sound alone, and she took these incredible Ansel Adams pictures of the birds, and so we learned a lot that way. And then Bert would tell us all about the water table and the global warming and everything that took place, the Ice Age, and he should know he'd been around since the last Ice Age, so he had personal knowledge of that. The advancing years didn't really slow Bert down. Nothing stopped him. On a visit together that we went to with Eagle Crest, that's where we first saw that bike that you saw. We had never seen an e-bike before. We'd certainly never seen one like Bert's. Nobody has, and nobody ever will again. But it was amazing how that thing actually worked. And he did explain to us in great detail how he had taken, was it a motorcycle? No, it wasn't a lawnmower?
A recumbent bike.
Oh, yes, but what was the engine? What was the energy source? A battery?
Batteries.
Anyway.
Lawnmower batteries.
Yeah. And we came to a little incline. I wasn't going to share this, but we came to a little incline, and we were on our regular pedal bikes, and Bert was just going up like 90, and all of a sudden, I think the battery quit or something. Anyway, it came to a screeching halt, and down everything went. So we, got Bert back in this e-bike. It was incredible. You just had to see it. That was a fun trip. We really enjoyed ourselves on that. Bert saved a lot of money by all the things he could fix and do, but he saved the money and he spent it well. He didn't spend it just on himself. He spent it on others less fortunate. So he was always looking out to help the little kids, very involved with the school. But, a plane. It's not the 8 o'clock. That's already gone. But he was very generous with his time and money. So any money that he might have saved on not buying an e-bike, he spent on those less fortunate. Part of his generosity probably came from his deep religious feelings. He could talk about religions from all over the world, and he combined, I think, a blending of his own religion in some ways, because we always found common ground, and he was always eager to share about his daily meditations and his deep core of belief. His last year in Oaxaca, this last year, Bert was just as stubborn and independent as ever. Walking long distances slowed him down, but he knew how to get around. He knew how to call a cab, and he knew how to disappear into his favorite spot, which was the Zocalo, where he often just sat and watched the world go by. The world still goes by, but it's with one less incredible man, and we miss him terribly already. I thank you.
I'd like to introduce Brescia Cruz.
Thank you. I hope you can see me. I mean, after looking this video and listen to Anne, and many memories came to me. Even when did I met him? I met him. He was my patient, but he always knew about more physics than I did. So that's true. That's true. He know about my equipment. He gave me some ideas how can I do better with my equipment. He asked me many questions, and it was very interesting to listen as an engineer, as a physics and mathematics and everything. But once he said, "Okay, Brescia, when are you coming to the States?" I said, as long Trump is president, I won't go to the States. He wasn't happy, but and 3 weeks later, I said, guess what? I got an invitation for a wedding, and I had to go to Sacramento. And he said, there is a direct flight from Sacramento to Portland, so we wait for you there. And I said, thank you, but I'm going to Fresno after Sacramento. There is a direct flight from Fresno to Portland, so we wait for you, okay? So I went there, I visited them, I had wonderful time, and then from Portland, he drove to Seattle, and we visit Anne and Bob. But the first day, they went to pick me up at the airport, and then after the airport, we went to the free market in downtown Portland. So I don't remember exactly what Helen was doing, but while she was doing that, he and we were driving, looking for a parking place, okay? So, and we were talking, very excited, and he was explaining, and then he crossed the red light, and the police came, and he was like, uh-oh, we are in trouble. And the lady said, you know that you passed the red line? And he said, yes, but you know what? I'm explaining Portland to my friend. She just came from Mexico. She is my visitor. So you can't take me, so you can stop me, okay? So you have to be nice. We have to be nice because she's visiting. And so she did it. She let us go, and we just keep going and laughing that I was visiting, and the police for Portland was very nice to us. That's one of my wonderful experiences I have. Last year, they were sick, and Helen called me and said, Brescia, can you please come and talk to him, because he doesn't stop to go to the Zocalo. And I said, okay. So I went to visit them, and I said, Bert, do you really love Helen? Of course I do. And I said, I don't think so. What do you mean? They said, because you keep going to the Zocalo. She is sick. She is worried. And since she is worried, her immune system goes down. So, do you really love her? Yes. Okay, you have to stay here. Okay, ma'am, I'll be here, but I promise, only 2, no more than 3 days. And that's what he did. He stayed 3 days at home, and then he was sick. But we love him very much. We remember very much, and he was such a wonderful man. And also we said, and he had also a wonderful wife. Thanks, Helen, for sharing this.
Thank you very much, Brescia. I do remember that bicycle trip, and we had regular non-electric pedal bicycles except for Bert's new e-bike. And I have a confession to make. It gave me a great deal of pleasure to pedal past him when his bike stopped. Jan Rooney is going to make a few comments, and then we'll open it up to everyone. And I want to mention that for anyone here who speaks Spanish, we have a translator. I want to mention that for anyone here who speaks Spanish, we have a translator available, so please feel free to come up and say something about Bert, and there won't be any serious language problems for you. All right, so Jan?
Thank you. Okay, so let me know if you can see me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh, good. Can you see me? All right. So I'm not going to be that funny. I'm usually funny, but I'm actually going to read this because I am a little attention deficit and I have to like stay on track, okay? All right, so this is on track. So I actually wrote this and sent this. You'll also see this in that nice whatever it is. You know, when you open up Bert's page, it'll be there. Okay. Dave and I have known Bert and Helen since they came to Oaxaca 12 years ago, and we hit it off immediately after taking a Mexican history class together at the library, right at this library. Oh, my goodness. Bert really enjoyed cooking, and we tasted his chicken marsala, chicken curry, and, of course, his famous chili. If Bert wanted to do something, he didn't give up. And I can remember walking around Mexico City looking for a liquor store that sold Marsala wine because he wanted to make that chicken. Yeah, and that was really important to him. Okay, hopefully this is going to continue. Good. Now, all right. So he did he found the Marsala wine, and he had a lot of different sides to him. Bert was a very complex kind of person. All right. He had a kind and gentle soul, and on the other hand, he had quite the fiery temper, and some of you might have seen that, yeah. So particularly when it came to politics, yeah, because we used to say there's no politics on our porch. They would come to visit us, and we would just like cut it right down, yeah. So anyway, one thing about Bert, it was hard to stay mad at him for a long time. He had a genuine sensitivity, and it was, yeah. So he did, and he could actually melt your heart, you know. He loved talking to children, and he also liked watching them. That was, you know, he had a really gentle side to him. And he was a storyteller, and I loved his stories. He and I would talk about talking to people on the other side. You know, you might not know that about him, but he and I had that in common. And actually, I talk to Bert every day. I have a picture of him. I have a little altar, and he's telling me he's doing really well. Yes. And he's thanking Helen for this nice shindig she's putting on. Yeah, so thank you. All right, so, towards the end of his life, Helen and I would talk, and we would say, the naughty boy. He was very naughty, and we would have laughs, and we would cry, and he got into some good mischief, yeah. But he was like a real Renaissance man. He was very unusual. There's not that many people like Bert, no, in a good way. And we're going to surely miss him. And so thank you, Helen and Bert. Yes, okay.
Thank you, Jan. Would anybody like to say anything about Bert? If you would come up here, that would be best. And we have an X on the floor for you to stand there. And you can't move from the X.
I can't move from... Whoa.
Okay.
This is what happens when you're
Nice recovery.
springs and levers guy. This electronic stuff just isn't terribly... Can you hear me all right? No. All right. Is this better? Is this better? Good. Okay. My name is Will Siegfried. I don't know... Okay, I don't know... Is this better? Okay, good. Thank you. I don't know how many times I met Bert at the holiday parties. Those were really the crux of my deeper relationship with him. I would certainly run into Bert and Helen around town, and those were always pleasant. But at the holiday parties, Bert would generally take me aside, and usually in some quiet, dark corner, and we'd just start talking about things. And I think the first time we really resonated about something was when we got to talking about how each of us felt people deserved to be treated. And it turns out that there was a lot in common about that, and that led to other things, which were essentially sort of what happens after you die. And I remember reflecting to him that an artist friend of mine, who Zapotec, had expressed his belief that really around ourselves are all of our ancestors who came before us and wishing us well and embracing us and supporting us to do our best and overcome whatever it is that seems to be an impediment. And he liked that idea. And I think when we parted, the idea is that really whatever happens to either of us will always be together under the same moon. And I like that idea. I don't see that Bert really has gone, but that he's around, and that somehow, in a way which I think is a mystery, and that's why it is that we're both under the same moon, and that feels very comforting. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much. Susan. Stand on the X.
Hi, I'm Susan Connor. I volunteer full-time and live at the Oaxaca Learning Center. And that's how I first came to know Bert. He came in with Helen and he had an idea. Well, he always had generosity of spirit. He had the idea that it would be good for our kids, 14 to 25-ish maybe, to learn about and work with ham radios. Now, as it turned out, that was beyond the capabilities that we had. But he stayed with our kids. He brought lots of erector sets and other scientific things that are beyond my capability. And what I remember most about Bert was that he had a deep streak of genius. I don't know what his formal education was, but he was the Renaissance man, deeply, deeply thoughtful, spiritual, and kind. That's who I always saw him to be, and I wanted to share with you the last time I saw him. It was at a concert, a Oaxaca Camerata concert at Casa de Barro. The concert was over, and there was music playing, and as some of you have noted, Bert was a talker, and I think maybe Helen needed a wee bit of relief from the talking. And my friend Elena Horwitz, who some of you may know, asked Bert if he wanted to dance. And until he stood up and danced with her, I'd come to think of Bert as very frail. But he put Fred Astaire to shame in those dancing. So last time I saw him, he was laughing and smiling and dancing, and I hope he is now. Thank you.
One way to get to Bert is to accuse him of being a lifelong Democrat. He went nuts.
Now notice I didn't go there at all, so. Would you like, please be my guest. There's a little X over there. You do.
Well, this seems to me a little bit anticlimactic after all these beautiful things we've talked about Bert, but my husband Leo and I and I'm Evelyn, first met Bert, I found out today was 10 years ago. We went up to Bonita Juarez on one of the hikes, and it was so cold up there. Oh my God. The next day, we went hiking with Helen and Bert, had just met them. And I think we were supposed to have an indigenous guide, and somehow we slipped that, and we got into kind of a real odd place with a little narrow pathway going down past behind people's houses, and the pathway got deeper, steeper, and Bert said, "Helen, I can't go down here. I'm going to be 80 years old my next birthday." Helen just kept on going. She knew Bert could do it. So we made it. And then Helen and Bert got ahead of us. And we were going up to the Mirador. So they were ahead. Leo and I came later. We were pretty tired out. We weren't 80 yet, but we were getting there. And they were sitting on a bench looking as pleased as punch. They said, "We called a taxi. We can go down with a taxi." So we sat on the bench with them, but no taxi came. It started getting darker and dark. We better start walking down this hill. So we walked, and all of a sudden we saw a log truck across the whole road, and behind the log truck was a pickup truck. And that was our taxi, but it couldn't get up there. So we got around the log truck, we got into the pickup truck. Bert and I sat in the front very quickly. Leo and Helen were in the back, and that truck had to back up over the mountain edge and back around, and oh my God, what an adventure with Bert and Helen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else would like to speak? Chuck?
Hi, I'm Chuck Barth.
Walk over on the X just a little bit.
My wife, Ellen, and I met Bert and Helen when they first came here in 2011, right? Okay. Louder? Okay, is this better? We were on the Zocalo having lunch at Terra Nova, I think it was, and Bert and Helen were sitting at the table across from us. And somehow Ellen figured out that they were newcomers to Oaxaca, and so she started conversation with them. And we found out that they needed a place to stay while they were looking for something to occupy themselves in Oaxaca. So we invited them to stay in our bread and breakfast. And they came, and we had 4 cats at the time, and the cats liked visitors. So they got cozy at night and settled themselves in bed. And in the morning, Bert came downstairs, a little bit upset, but not too bad. But he said, "My hearing aids are gone." And, you know, I just couldn't believe it that something happened. And those were expensive hearing aids. And he said, "Do you think the cats got them?" And sure enough, because the window was open, one of the cats got in and took the hearing aids somewhere. And he couldn't figure out, we couldn't figure out where the cats could have taken them or what they did with them. We hope they didn't tear them apart or bury them in the garden, whatever. And I just told Bert that I just swept the patio. And he says, "Well, let's look at the debris that you swept." And sure enough, we looked at it, and there were the hearing aids. I did a crummy job on telling that story, but Bert tells it very well.
Thank you, Chuck. Okay.
Quick story.
You have to stand on that X.
Hi, I'm one of the neighbors at Bayo Suites, and so I only knew Bert for 3 years, but on New Year's Eve, we have a gathering there, and so this is a story nobody's told yet about Bert. What a romantic he was, because at the end of the evening, he had planned with the band to play a song, and he sang to Helen the entire song, "The Shadow of Your Smile." So that's Bert the romantic.
Wow. Denny?
Yeah,
Can you?
I mean, God knows I can't.
Find that X over there.
Yeah, I know about the X.
Okay, I'm sure that you can all see me, and I know you can all hear me. I haven't known Bert and Helen that long, but the time that we have spent with them has been so wonderful because they have introduced us to so many of you. So I thank you for that. But I just have had such a thought about Bert during what everyone's talking about. And I think that we all need to take this away. Bert's politics was extremely different from mine. And so, being somewhat judgmental, I decided to, maybe step back a bit and not really get to know him very well. And I realize now what an interesting, complex person he was. Yes, our politics didn't agree. Maybe religiously we didn't agree. But there were so many wonderful things about him. So what I am going to take away from this is that I need to be more open and not make judgments right away about people and then lose out on knowing someone more deeply. So I just want to say thank you, Bert.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Denny. I think we should move on just a little bit to the important part, and that is the mezcal. What we'd like to do now is play Bert's favorite song. Tony Bennett and Juanes are going to do a duet to the Shadow of Your Smile. And while that's playing, people will pass out mezcal. Please just kind of, you can have a little sip of that, but have a little swig so we can have a toast to Bert at the